Anime has been rising in popularity this last decade, so much so that I forget that it used to be a thing people clown on you for. Especially the last 4-ish years since COVID started, you can't even go to McDonald's without being hit with anime. But a lot of people that I know who watch anime are still in what I like to call the generic phase. What is the generic phase, you might be asking? It's a stage in anime where you first start getting into it and watch all the mainstream stuff. I've been watching anime for nearly 20 years, and I started out as kind of an oddball. Mostly because my first anime was Inuyasha, and ultimately my top 3 anime of all time. But most of the time, people who get introduced to anime are usually exposed to mainstream generic stuff. Back then, the animes you would think of would be Dragon Ball, Rip Akira Toriyama, Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, stuff like that. Actually, you knew something was very generic when you had that one dude in your class or school you knew that screamed one of these iconic moves. Nowadays, the generic stuff people get into are way more diverse, like Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, or Spy X Family. Typically, you know it's mainstream as hell when you got your local supermarket selling clothes and merch in their aisles. Now, this one is something of the generic phase as well, but it's like a deviation of it. What I'm talking about is the illustrious magical girl phase. AKA woman empowerment, AKA cute girl version of Power Rangers, AKA the dark path, AKA I have crippling anxiety path. But yeah, a lot of people back then started out with this stuff like Sailor Moon, Madoka Magica, Kiki's Delivery Service, which by the way is elite, and a whole bunch of other things. However, this deviation in the typical pathway sometimes leads to some weird futures. You get to this point in your life where you're in middle school now and you're watching anime on some illegal site like Kiss Anime or GoGo Anime. You didn't have Crunchyroll back then because you was a broke kid like me. You had to ask your parents for $20. You got that like every once a year. You were probably like me, also watching anime off YouTube like a dweeb, watching Dead Man Wonderland, and even romantic stuff like Toradora and Golden Time. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, and us being little romantics that we were during that time could devour an anime like that within a day, hoping to eventually have the lovey-dovey stuff happen to us. But alas, we were only in middle school. One day, your edgy, anime-loving friend sees you watching some anime and they ask you if you watch anime. And of course you say yes. This is where the cycle of naivety begins, because this, my friends, is where they send you to the dark side. They tell you, oh, you should watch this anime called High School DxD. Or rather, they ask you the simple yet disastrous question. Have you heard of Boku no Pico? You ask yourself, what is Boku no Pico? You've heard of something like Boku no Hero Academia, but maybe you got the name wrong. Now you're starting to watch anime that is just an English world like Dragon Ball or Bleach. You've now entered the Nisemono arena where animes usually have Japanese titles. You have no clue what they mean, but you know there's an English title to it. Anyway, the naive little weeb you are checks it out, because at this stage in your anime life, you can eat a 12 to 24 episode anime within a day or two, right? But this anime is only 3 episodes. Weird. You can't find it on the typical illegal websites, and now you're looking up the show on some foreign website that rhymes with anime, but somehow starts with the letter H. By the time you realize what it is, it's far too late. And now you've been bamboozled mentally, and now you're scarred until you hit high school. And you're wondering how and why did you look up that Boku no garbage? After that, you probably tried cleansing your eyes with the earlier animes listed before, and now you've entered the ecchi and harem zone, where all you probably watch now is fan service garbage, and try to defend it with your friends by saying, the plot is good, I swear. Yet the next scene is the main girl's racks bouncing uncontrollably with the MC basically slobbing over it. Yeah, we've all been through that phase, and some of us take that stage to the next level with dojin, or the H word that rhymes with anime. We call that the degenerate phase. Wait, you didn't think I forgot the most important phase all early 2000 boys went through, right? That's right, I'm talking about the Pikachu I choose you phase, Beyblade Let It Rip phase, the Bakugan Roll phase, and most importantly, the I activate Pod Agree to activate 2 additional cards to my hand phase.
Oh no! Oh yes!
We don't talk about the Digimon phase,
なるほど。メタルグレイモンになる分にはいいけど、スカルグレイモンになると困る。だから転ばんからやり直すって話ね。まあいいや、それで。
We all begged our parents to bring us a GameStop to buy those sweet Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh card packs, knowing full well we're gonna pull up the next day to school like Bling Bling Boy with our new EX Mewtwo and Blue Eyes White Dragon that we are definitely illegal summoning. You feeling like the coolest kid on the block, and not to mention, you probably had a plastic Beyblade arena ready on standby for whoever foolish kid came up to you ready to battle. This was probably peak childhood when you just went around fighting your friends with no worries in the world about metagaming or paying entire rents worth of deck building. You just had whatever toys or cards your mom got you from Target and you went straight to the battlefield. Then, after everything was said and done, the wasteland of fools who dare challenge your El Draco Destroyer and your lucky time wizard enter high school. Your hormones still out of whack and your brain has developed some since the middle school degenerate era. You've recovered from the trauma that is Boku no Pico, and now you've become much more aware of the anime you consume now. You probably dabbled in a little bit of isekai like SAO or No Game No Life, or if you were cool like me, you watch Inuyasha because technically that's one of the OG isekai. Those isekai gave you a taste of what plot and story building could do, and then you hear about seinen anime. It's like shonen anime but on steroids, and by steroids, I mean godly story, godly characters, plot and character development, world building, the list goes on and on. During this time, you probably heard people talking about Berserk, One Punch Man, Monster, Vinland Saga, and so much more. Given that the people around you have some sense of taste, when it comes to anime, you try to watch maybe one or two of them. Then suddenly, you're now quoting stuff from The Art of War by Sun Tzu. You got guys putting in their social media bio and yearbook quotes, "Victorious warriors win first, and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first, and then seek to win." Or, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt." And most famously, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle." All the while, they got Guts as profile pictures or Thorfinn spamming the phrase, "I have no enemies." By the end of high school, you've probably racked up a plethora of anime under your belt, even became somewhat of a philosopher after all the seinen anime you've watched. Anyway, yeah, this was the phase, plain and simple. Now finally, you've reached the pinnacle, the mountaintop. No anime now brings the joyous springs of youth anymore. Nothing tickles your fancy as much as it used to. Seasonal anime becomes a chore now, as you must keep up with weekly episodes and every day being a different show, either being completely new for that season, or some anime that finally got a second season after a decade of hiatus, just for the studio behind the new season to be MAPPA, and we all know the hellish labors that MAPPA hides from the world. Now, you're either rewatching stuff or being spoiled on TikTok about a show you were interested in, but can no longer enjoy because TikTok ruins the excitement of surprise and wants to spoil you every time you scroll. All that combined has left you drained and left your interest in anime dwindling. You have a job, have hobbies, and life has taken over your schedule. It now becomes hard to keep track of the new and old stuff being made every 3 to 4 months, and you eventually give up. If only there was something to lighten your passion. Wait, do you hear that? Speaking of mangas has pushed your brain capacity to 100%. You realize that you've been training your whole life to read. Reading? How can that be? Watching stuff is superior, right? No. Reading manga allows you to experience the full raw intentions by the mangaka. No cut content, and most importantly, you can read it at your own pace. Sadly, if it's a weekly manga, you suffer the same dread you felt about weekly anime. And sometimes there might be manga that you have to wait for a month for. Gotcha! However, that's no problem, because it doesn't feel like you must read it as soon as it comes out. Yes, you might have to be spoiled on TikTok about manga chapters, but the chances are lower because who the fuck reads? Maybe you dabble in some webtoon stories and mangas, but ultimately, you now enter the bookworm phase. We've come full circle. What began as a fleeting interest in watching anime has evolved into a profound love for the written word. As you delve into the very stories that first captivated you, you discover the rich depths of narrative and artistry that once lay hidden behind the scenes. No longer just generic anymore, but now nostalgia. The familiar tale you watched as a child now resonates more deeply as the full breadth of their beauty and complexity unfolds in your hand. Now, as you idly sit and watch the new generation embrace anime, you appreciate the journey that brought you here. A journey that transforms simple enjoyment into a lifelong appreciation for the power of storytelling in all its phases.